Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video, we'll look into preloading strategies in Angular. There are two different types of preloading strategies. The first one is about preloading modules, whereas the other is about preloading component data. But in this video, we'll only focus on preloading modules. So let's get it started now. The main goal of the preloading modules strategy is to load feature modules asynchronously in the background so that when the user clicks on the route, the module is readily available to be served to the end customer. So on this brand new Angular application, I have two links on the header. The first one is a regular route, which loads the app component right here, and this is part of the eagerly loaded app module. Whereas the other route loads the feature module on demand. So if we see the difference between regular and lazy loading routes, we can see that on the regular routes, there are 5 bundles here, but on the lazy loading routes, we have one more extra chunk here. And this chunk represents the feature module, which is right here. And that represents this lazy loading feature module here. So the goal of preloading modules strategy is to load this chunk in the background even before user actually clicks on this link. That way, when the user navigates this link, the module is readily available. So let me add the preloading config now on the route file right here. On the for root method, we can pass one more object where we can define our strategy. By default, Angular also provides a way to preload all the lazy loaded modules, or we can even actually have our own custom strategy. First, let me start with the default method provided by Angular. We have this service called PreloadAllModules. When I add this module and go to the home page right here, we can actually see one more bundle here, and this bundle is exactly the same module, this module right here. And this chunk is being loaded in background asynchronously on the home page. So let's say if I have one more lazy loaded module, let me copy and paste the command quickly here to generate that new lazy loaded module. I just created a new lazy loaded module, which is called lazy loading second right here. And also, if you notice on the routes file here, one more config is being added here. Let me try to copy this path here and create a link quickly here as well. I'm going to copy this link and then just change the path here. Let me start the server quickly. If I refresh the page, now we can see this one more route here. And if you notice here, we can see 2 bundles here. And each of these represents the lazy loaded modules. The first one is lazy loading, the first one here. And this is for the second one here. The second one here. If there is a scenario where you want to only preload one lazy loaded module, in that case, we have to create a custom preloading strategy. So in order to create a custom preloading strategy, we need to create a new service. So I'm going to create a new service. Let me name this as custom preloading. So this will generate a new service right here. If you notice this PreloadAllModules service, it actually implements preloading strategy, and this interface has this method called preload. We can use the same method on our custom service right here. We don't need the constructor anymore. I'm going to paste this method. Let me create the body, and then this will implement preloading strategy service. Let me import the dependencies quickly. And this method should return an observable right here. So now there are 2 scenarios. if you just want to preload everything, you can just return this function like so here. And then on this route file, we need to use our custom service. So there is no change on the previous implementation and this custom implementation. Let's see that in action first. And then we can selectively define which module to preload and not. Let me start the server quickly. If I now refresh the page, we can see now two bundles here is similar to our previous implementation. But let's say if you just want to preload the second module and not the first one, we can have some logic on this service itself here. So I'm going to add some custom data here. So on the routes, we can define this custom data with the help of data property. I'm going to create an object called preload true here. So the goal here is if the route has this property defined, then we'll only preload this module, else we are not going to preload that module. So now here, what we can do actually is we can check, right? If route.data.preload is true. Right, so this is any, right? What we can do actually is we can just do any for the timing. And then only we return this function. Else, what we can do actually is we just return false or null, right? Let's do null. So now with this code, only this module will be preloaded and this module will not be preloaded. Let's see that in action. I'm going to refresh this page. If you notice here, we are only preloading the first one here, right? There is no another chunk representing this module here. But if I add the same code right here, meaning we also want to preload this module, then both of the modules can be seen here. So we can take this custom logic even further. Let's say if the user has a pretty good network bandwidth, then we want to preload all the modules. But there might be scenarios where user might have a slower network connections, such as 2G or 3G connections. In that case, we don't want to preload all the modules. So we can make some tweaks on our code. I already have that code, so let me copy and paste that code right here. So the only change I have done here is I have added one helper function here, and this function basically relies on this navigator object, which is the native navigator object that's found on all the browser APIs. And here we are trying to figure out whether the connection is 2G, 3G, or what kind of connection it is. So here I'm saying if it's a slower connection, then it returns false right here. If it's a faster internet connection, then we return true. And based on this logic, we can determine what to return, right? So if we have good connection, meaning user has pretty good internet bandwidth, we just preload that module, else we'll not preload that module. Let's see that in action now. So on the browser, when we have pretty good internet connection, when I refresh the page, we can see these two modules as expected. So now let's try to simulate a scenario of slow internet connection. So on the network tab on the Chrome browser, I have the option to pick the type of the network that I want to connect to. So let's assume I'm on this 3G network connection here, and then let's try to refresh the page. So in this scenario, we should not be expecting those two modules to be preloaded. It might take a bit more time to load because this is a slower connection. So the page has been fully loaded now, and here on the network tab, we can see those two modules being preloaded, and that's what exactly we wanted. And if I again revert back to good internet connection, we should be able to see these two models being preloaded. That's pretty much it. I hope this video helps. Thank you very much for watching my video. See you soon on the next video.